So welcome to Podmenu's webinar on how to rank higher on Google. We appreciate you taking some of your valuable time and spending it with us on this important topic. Search engine optimization is complex, it's misunderstood, and for restaurants and other industries, it tends to be one of these things that's so nuanced and so technical that it's hard to really understand what's going on. So we're going to break everything down for you today. So you have a list of simple actions you can take to increase your brand visibility online. I'm Brendan Sweeney. I am CEO and one of the founders of Popmenu, and I have been dealing with the topic of SEO across various industries since the early 2000s. And so I've seen what works and what doesn't across industries and across borders in countries all around the world. So very excited to share our perspective on it and know that you'll get a lot of value out of it. With me, I have Tony Roy, who I'll let introduce himself.
Thank you, sir, for that tee up. My name's Tony. I'm one of the founders here. I've probably visited with some of you either online or in person at some point. I oversee all of our sales and corp dev functions, and so certainly can share the non-technical point of view as an everyday consumer. That's what I'll bring to the table today, and my passion.
You will bring your passion, sir.
I'll bring my
Awesome.
passion.
We're also thrilled to have with us Doug Townsend from L&L Hawaiian Barbecue. L&L does a great job of staying in front of first-timers and repeat guests. And Doug, hello.
Yes,
would
sir.
you mind introducing yourself and telling everyone a little bit about L&L?
Yeah, hi. I'm Doug. I'm an owner-operator on 8 restaurants here in Texas. And I come from a long restaurant background, 44 years, 37 corporate years with a top 5 restaurant corporate restaurant company in the world. Operations, technology, West Division for them, ran 4,600 restaurants for them. Excited to be here and excited to use Popmenu. It's been a great relationship, and you guys have done a wonderful job. So I'm really excited about what we've done over the last year. It's been wonderful. So
Awesome. Thanks for that, Doug. We're going to start things off with an audience poll on a scale of 1 to 10. How easy is it for guests to find your restaurant in searches online? All right, so not too bad. I mean, this is a distribution that I would expect. And I think, look, our goal is to get you down,
you can't see me.
get you in this list to where you're as high as possible. And the great news is there are definitely ways that could be done. So thanks for sharing there, and we will keep it going forward. Look, we've heard a lot of news about ChatGPT, generative tools. AI is certainly going to play a role in search. Google did just in November report their peak market share of search of all time, which was almost 91%. In December, it went under 90% for the first time. So we'll see how AI comes into it. But 90% of all searches worldwide is still a lot. It's a great deal. And so we can all relate to this. 8 in 10 consumers search online for local businesses at least once a week. And restaurants are definitely at the top of the list what they're searching for. Most consumers are searching things like restaurants near me, or by cuisine type, or specific dish. And so we're going to show you how to boost your local search ranking for all those relevant queries. And for a complex topic, we'll keep it very simple. We'll stick with the basics to start with, including red flags to avoid. Then we'll move into what you can do to optimize your website and bring in more business. And then tools you can lean on to improve SEO, plus some real life outcomes. And I promise you one nugget at the end that I'll share with you that whether you use Popmenu or not will help you in your SEO journey. Great. So next, what is SEO and why should we care? So in a nutshell, SEO is the process of improving your website's visibility on Google and other search engines. Generally, if you're well set up on Google, you're also set up for things like Bing and DuckDuckGo and those that are longer tail that have a smaller percentage of the market. So we really focus on Google first and foremost. SEO generates free traffic, which in turn multiplies orders. And if your website isn't optimized, you're literally losing business that you could have otherwise captured every single day. It's one of the most important things you can do to ensure the success of your restaurant. I guarantee your competitors are at least thinking about this. They're probably acting upon it. When you are not doing the same, you're falling behind them. When you are doing the same, you're competing and you're getting ahead of them. Next up, some red flags. This is just as important as the basics. I find this is one of the topics that's unfortunately very easy for kind of hucksters to come in and people without, great intentions for your business. they can come in and make it sound like you're not doing very well and that they have a magic wand that can fix everything. I'm sure they're coming to you all the time. Look, some of them will be useful. There are people who can help you out. But really, if you see someone saying, hey, look, we can guarantee that you'll be number one, you should hang up the phone. You should hang up the Zoom. No one can guarantee number one. We don't claim to. We know we can't. No one else can. Two, if someone says they can game the system, I mentioned I've been doing this since the early 2000s. I have seen every kind of attempt at this come and go, and I promise you, Google finds it every single time. And when they find something new that has worked for a bit, they turn around and penalize you even more. So anything that's done that's outside of the kind of normal behavior of a website, they will figure it out and they will penalize you for it. They can't game the system. And then if someone promises overnight results, it's just not possible. And so, yes, you can make some things happen in the short term that will eventually be found out. But the truth is, Google is quick to identify his exploits, like I said, and that's part of why you can't get overnight results. But also, just in fact, it is a journey. It's something that's continually happening. It's something you have to continually optimize, or you need to utilize a tool that continually optimizes it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Now, you can get results pretty quickly, but I would say over a course of 3 months is usually what we see, where we see real action taking place. All right, digging in to the actual tactics. So what influences SEO? The one way to think about it is Google is really looking to promote websites that people will want to use, that will enjoy using. They don't want to give a number one ranking to a site that's going to give a consumer a bad experience that will give them a bad reputation. And so the first thing is page speed. And so speed is critical. They do not want to send their consumers to slow sites, because we know that consumers bail very, very quickly from slow sites. You can test how quickly your pages download on desktop and on mobile devices. There's something in Chrome called Lighthouse that can help you figure this out as well. It's very easy to run both on mobile and desktop, but knowing that speed is huge is a big deal. And if your site is loading slow for you as a consumer, chances are that's hurting your chances in SEO as well. Very important that the mobile experience is just as good as the desktop, even better. The vast majority of visitors to your website are using mobile devices. This is especially true in restaurants. Most people are making their near me searches on the go. And so if your site is slow to load or has a poor experience on mobile, that's going to be a major kind of check against you in Google. Site security is another big one. And so having that little HTTPS up in the URL is something that Google actively looks for. And if you do not have a secure site, they will move you down positions on search ranking. So all those things are important. And then accessibility, there's ADA and WCAG conformance, which are really standards that are meant to help people who are visually impaired access your information. If you are not conformant to those different standards, you will also get dinged by Google. Those things are kind of the basics that we start with, and then we can get into how you improve. So in addition to these factors, these 6 items are things that are in your control to optimize without gaming the system. And number 1 is keeping content fresh and comprehensive. And so Google is out there trying to understand who is actively managing their site, who is keeping the content up to date. And they will always prefer that over someone or some business that is letting their content get stale. It's not changing over time. There's more of a risk that Google is going to be sharing inaccurate information. They don't want that. So simply keeping your content fresh, your latest dishes, your offers, even your blog and things like that make a big difference in how Google sees your site and how it decides to rank it. Integrating with Google Business Profile, I think the vast majority of restaurants know that this is a huge deal. But if you are one of the ones that has not done this yet, and this is something we built into Popmenu very early, go and do that. It will have a big impact. We know that when you're in a map search, in a location-based search, people always ask, like, is it the stars, or what is it that determines how people are ranked? Because it doesn't seem to be sorted in a particular way. Having your fresh information always pushing over to your Google Business Profile is a big part of that. Encouraging and sharing reviews on your website. This is a great way to keep that content fresh and comprehensive and signal to Google that you have a very active business and that the content is fresh. And so capturing reviews, this is something that's native to Popmenu. We capture your reviews and give you the opportunity to publish it straight to your page. That kind of thing is happening almost automatically on Popmenu, but even if you're outside of Pop Menu. Capture reviews on your dishes, capture reviews on your restaurants, share them in your dish descriptions, in your dish pages, things like that. And it has a definite impact on your SEO. Using strong keywords is important. And so keeping in mind how consumers search for restaurants, making sure that both your cuisine type and your dishes and your location are very clear throughout your site have a huge impact on those near me searches, especially when you get into the more detailed ones. One that I see all the time that has an impact that maybe is not intuitive, that this would be impacting SEO, is optimizing visuals. And so we all want these big, beautiful pictures on our sites to help compel people to either make a reservation or make an online order or come right in and order. If those aren't optimized for speed and they're slowing the experience down, that also has a strong impact on where you're going to end up in search rankings. And then finally, using clear URLs. Any modern technology that you're using, including Pop Menu, should be handling the URL creation for you and should be doing this in a clear way. But if not, you need to be making those domains, those URLs very, very clear. And again, using the cuisine type and using the dish content or dish names and location are the kinds of things that make those URLs very powerful. I've been talking a lot and going straight. Tony, was there anything you wanted to add on that?
No, I've got a couple of things I'll show after Doug that, I can think kind of gives people just a firsthand exposure of what you're talking about. So I'll jump in after Doug's portion.
Great.
There was a quick question, Brendan, from Linda about a quick way to ensure the site is pushing over to Google integration. On Pop Menu, that's one of the things we really focus on, is having a deep, robust, Google My Business or Google Business Profile integration. But anything else you would do other than running a search, Brendan, to see if you're showing up there on the box?
Yeah, so there's two things. So through Pop Menu and some other technologies like it, we have a place where you can take control of your Google My Business Profile. Google Business Profile. I still like saying Google My Business, even though they changed it. You can take control of it through our admin panel, and so you just sign in and authorize there. We actually help you even if you haven't taken control of it yet, and do the whole phone call thing that helps them verify you're the owner. If you're outside of Pop Menu or another technology like that, you can go and find that profile. There will be one automatically created for you, and you can take control of it. And so then there's a number of steps that you take to make sure that happens. And so then you get control of it, which may take days or weeks. But once you're in there, you can do all kinds of things to update it. Again, through Pop Menu, those things automatically happen as the content in your site changes. But if you're outside of Pop Menu and you want to stay there for some reason, you can take control of it. And then the key is to keep that information fresh all the time. And that could be your hours, it could be your menu, it could be links to delivery, things like that. All of those things just need to be, and answering reviews is the other part of it.
I think that last piece, Brendan, is really important for people to know. Again, with Pop Menu, we're doing all that updating for you. But what we see all the time is when we're consulting people in the field is they'll have a Google My Business page, but they haven't updated their menu. So they haven't updated hours and other relevant information. Those are all big factors in how you're going to show up in organic searches. So everything is combined. The more robust the information you have, the better your position. So if you're not with Pop Menu and you're using some other provider, I would query, hey, how deep are you updating my Google Business Profile? Can you show me what you're doing or what's responsible to us? I think that's where we see a lot of people do a lot more window dressing instead of doing the behind the scenes work that really makes the biggest difference.
For sure. And also, if you didn't know this, if you haven't claimed your profile, that's consumers that are writing in there, maybe even your competition, that are getting to add what are your hours and all kinds of things like that. And so that's also why taking control of it's so important, because someone's putting the information in, and it should definitely be you as the owner. Great, which brings us to our focus always has been the menu. It's in our name from day one. The menu is the number one thing we focused on. And from day one, we've seen this as your greatest SEO tool. It's your greatest guest capture tool. It's your greatest guest engagement tool. But certainly it is your most powerful SEO tool. And so the number one way to keep your content fresh and comprehensive automatically is keeping your menu up to date. The most effective tool that you have is your online menu. And one of the innovations we brought to the market is that we treat every single dish on your menu as an individual page for Google to index. That functions a little bit like Amazon, where they will have a very specific product page and there's all kinds of information in it, and that keeps Google aware of what exactly this product is. We brought that to the menu, even just a browsing menu, not even an ordering menu. And so just creating these pages for every single dish you have has a dramatic impact on your SEO, and Tony's going to share some examples on that as well. We did this to contrast what was going on at the time, which is just PDF menus everywhere. And so when we started this business 8 years ago, I mean, it's still like this for a lot of restaurants, but the PDF is a major SEO impediment. And so this is a print file that was uploaded out of convenience, so that no further work had to be done to share the menu. But the truth is, Google likely can't read it. If they can read it, they see it as one page of content. Whereas the way Popmenu does it, in some cases, we have 100, 200 pages of content for our clients. And it gives this very, very rich picture to Google to say, yes, I thought this was a Hawaiian restaurant, but now I can see all the dishes. I'm speaking as Google right now. Now I can see all the dishes, and I'm very, very sure, hey, there's some spam in here, and there are all these indications that this is not only a Hawaiian restaurant, it's the most Hawaiian restaurant in town. And so this creating just a massive content for Google to better understand what your business is has a major, major impact on your SEO.
Brian, if I can say something,
ahead,
Brian, you're
jump in.
You're hitting a real key part here, which I think the word is dynamic, right? And when you talked about the visibility and the frequency of change and how Google responds in their algorithm, one of the things we did by keeping the specials every month and updating it with constant change, constantly updating our menus and the pages as Google looks at it, it keeps us fresh, which always keeps us in Google's eyes. Holy cow, look at this Hawaiian restaurant and the number of pages that are coming into this. So they're constantly looking at me going, wow, these guys got new stuff all the time, instead of it being a static, as some people do it, right? So we're feeding their energy for us to be prompted to come to number one based on how you guys have set it up. Your system with how we feed it with, monthly specials and our events, and how you do it as a page just helps keep me near the top all the time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So your system works like a charm. It's like a perfect scenario, right? It's a roadmap that works, right? That's why I love it.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. You nailed it perfectly. And I'd say the other part of it is every time you update a dish or post a review, that signals to Google there's fresh content to consider. Yes. And not only can you post a review, you can post your response to it as well. Yes. And so you have all of these opportunities to keep that content going and to keep it fresh. And those are the things that are super important there.
And for me, Brendan, what makes it easy for me is that all I'm doing is normal work, right? It's just my normal daily routine of keeping, we try and stay dynamic. We have a vision that I brought from, if the big guys do it, right? And if they have to stay dynamic and do stuff on a monthly basis, then some little guy like me should probably get on board, right? And jump on the bus, right? So that's why we do it. If it works for them, it should work for me. And it has. It's done wonders for us.
And absolutely. And for us, I mean, a big part of Popmenu and a big part of why we built it this way is to level the playing field. It chains, and especially massive chains, shouldn't have all the power over hamburger near me, and so we love that this actually does level the playing field, and no one's doing reviews on the McDonald's website or big things like that. And so it is a major leveler when it comes to kind of fighting for real estate in Google.
I've done this with 3 other companies. I have failed to even come close to anything where I wanted to be at. Jen and I got together and we talked about what I wanted to do. And she said, Doug, we can deliver. And I said, well, okay, let's go. And you guys immediately, I gave you guys a timeline, 3-month, 6-month, 9-month window, and we hit those benchmarks at every time. I had a 3-month expectation, I had a 6-month expectation, had a 9-month expectation, and we hit those marks every time.
I appreciate that color, Doug, and I also appreciate you sharing that experience with everyone else. That's definitely how it should be, and that's a great segue to our next slide, which is really seeing Doug's SEO best practices in action. And so when you search Hawaiian food in Houston Heights, L&L comes up number 1. We see similar results where L&L ranks number 1 or comes up near the top of results for other markets as well. So it is working. We can show you the stats there and or the example there, and also you've got Doug's testimonial. And then this slide shows the organic traffic and impressions for L&L. There's multiple steps to impacting SEO, the first thing is to get the pages indexed with the kind of experience and content refresh that we've talked about. But then as those pages get out there and get indexed, and then they take on, as Google starts to understand them, then the organic visibility builds. And then if people are clicking through them and like what they see, then your traffic is growing. And so you can see since L&L launched new websites in spring of last year, there's very impressive growth. It's definitely up and to the right. And so, yeah, Doug, what differences have you seen in terms of traffic and order volume online, on-prem since last year? I'm hoping this follows this.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's been outstanding. I mean, it's been nothing but positive.
Awesome. And you could say, well, L&L is Hawaiian. That's very specific. Does this work if it's burgers, etc.? And so we can go to the next slide and say, here's another example of a client we work with. If you search for shrimp and grits in Atlanta, which is a very popular dish, and many people are looking to sell it and get as much business as possible through it in Atlanta, South City Kitchen shows up first. They use the same best practices L&L has in place, and it pays off for them. I don't know if you want to add anything on here, Tony.
Yeah, I'm going to take the screen real quick and go off script just to allow the marketing team to get mad at me later, like typical. I can't sit quiet that often. So I just kind of want to explain it as we're going through it, because we've shared a lot of great information. Just I think visually seeing this again in a live site will give it added context. One of the things about here is this is a Pop Menu customer. This is Hampton Social, great restaurant, awesome atmosphere, based out of Chicago. I think they're now in 15 or 16 cities. One of the things you're seeing here is Brendan talked about having clean URLs and other content, whether it's updated quality visuals and other things happening with the site. When I hover over this Hampton Caesar, you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little web address down there. And as I hover over different items, that web address is changing. One of the things we do is we are essentially creating little websites for every single item. So every dish, every cocktail, every event, and so on. So one, we're just naturally giving Google more content that they can index and pull from. Two, all the activity going on, the reviews and what have you, that are occurring throughout the site and throughout the menu experience are also adding additional content in addition to site speed, security, mobile optimization, things like that, right? Like these are all things that we think about and invest in. One, it's a great consumer experience. Two, it's also, we know, going to maximize your exposure with Google. We always say that our first responsibility is to drive more traffic to our clients. The second thing is have a unique user experience so you convert more of them into the transaction path, and you can influence them while we do that. But just to talk about how the indexing is helping you show up in more searches, I actually just did this right as we were getting on the call, and I ran Best Caesar in River North, one of their locations that's kind of in that area. And you'll notice here they are, the first restaurant actually listed. Here's another thing that I'd highlight that Brendan just touched on is Shrimp and Grits Atlanta. It's a major market, fairly common dish, and they were known for that item. So I ran this search. Every organic listing here is a Pop Menu customer. The other thing to think about is all these are linking directly to the individual dish item, where now if I want to go straight to make the order or a reservation, all that stuff is just right there front and center. So I wanted to contextualize it. I also wanted to show that it's not just these ones. I did Best Milkshakes in Chicago. This is our customer. And we can keep going further and further, but one other thing Brendan talked about was all this activity and reviews and how that's a good thing in Google's eyes. 110 Grill is a longstanding customer of ours. And all the activity you just saw me referencing on the actual menu page, this is a bistro. They have a wings item on their menu. These 720, let's call them votes or whatever, are essentially the pops that you'd see if you interacted with the dish. Brendan also referred to the fact that there are so many pages indexed for this one particular item. All these things are just going to optimize your ability to show up, not just for those large searches like best dinner in Atlanta or best Mexican in Charlotte, but now when people start to run more intricate searches, we can start picking up what we refer to sometimes as a long tail search. Maybe Brendan's really craving for mac and cheese, so he runs a search for that in the area that he's going to be visiting. These are just examples of how, one, whatever platform you're using, you want to look for those types of things. Ours is unique, right? And we also have a patent on our menu, which allows us to do other things in terms of recommendations and whatnot. But the architecting, I always say to people when we're consulting them, your menu is your biggest sales tool to the market. Not just because that's the primary decision point for consumers, but that's the quick and easiest way that if you optimize things for Google to extend your reach, cast a wider net so you have more traffic that finds you. That's the biggest part of the battle. Get more people to your business. Then the second challenge you're trying to overcome is, how do I stand out versus the competition? And how do I do so in a way that's going to continue to benefit me? So I want to show that perspective, Brendan, because I think that was important. There was also a question in the chat, Brendan, about, is it better to approve reviews on Google through here or through Google itself? I don't know if you have a thought on that part.
Yeah, I thought the question was, should they be approving?
Right.
Is one or the other more important? Do them all. And so the thing is, the pop menu reviews are going to appear in your site, and your responses to those reviews appear in your site. And so those are going to give these fresh content signals to Google. But you also want to keep doing it in Google as well. It's just a good practice to respond. I mean, I think you respond to all of them, or you don't respond to any of them, depending on what your resources are. But certainly responding to the Google ones also is a signal to the Google My Business profile and to Google. And just a quick thing on what Tony just said too. One other benefit of having this dynamic menu experience is a factor that Google looks at in either promoting or demoting a site in search results is bounce rate. And so bounce rate has to do with, when a consumer comes to your site, how long do they spend on it before they bounce and go somewhere else? If you just have a PDF menu or just have a text menu, there's not that much for them to do. There's not that much time for them to spend in consideration. The more dynamic it is, the more they can explore, the more information's there. There's ratings, there's pictures, there's social validation, there are reviews. Those things keep people more engaged. That's another signal to Google to say, this is a site that warrants higher ranking.
Hey, so, Brendan, there was another question from Matthew. Do you apply the strategy for indexable menu item pages for surrounding towns and cities, or is it just one location page recommended?
Yeah, the geo, it's a great question. The geo aspect of it is controlled by Google. And so I live in Woodstock. It's a suburb of Atlanta. When I search for Atlanta, is it going to show Woodstock? They are deciding that. The main thing that's important is that we have clearly told Google where this is located, and then they're going to decide, what search radius makes sense. That's a great question. But I would say an old school spammy shystery thing that SEO hucksters used to do would be to create like a link farm off to the side, where they would just create like shrimp and grits in like every single town, all around Atlanta or whatever the metro area is. And that is the kind of thing that just absolutely does not work anymore, and only worked for a little while, because you don't want to tell somebody this is the best shrimp and grits in Ackworth if you don't have anything within miles and miles of that. So great question.
I think that's a big one, Brendan, because that is something that we hear a lot. Like marketing, some of the less quality marketing folks will reach out to restaurants with saying things like that. And going back to your first thing, hey, we can get you on the number one listing all the time on Google. And it's typically, when you see those types of patterns, that's a good sign that you're not dealing with probably the best vendor.
So this is the cautionary tale. This is what happens when you switch to a non-optimized site. And so it's great to tell you what happens and show you Doug's story of going up and to the right. This is what happens when you go to a fully optimized experience. And I'll let Tony talk through a bit what happens when you switch away from that to something that isn't as robust.
Yeah, the top one is someone that was a great customer of ours. I think you can see when they left Pop Menu, the sharp decline there in organic pages. That's a lot of what we're referring to today, is how we're indexing things throughout the site to give a lot more content and weight towards Google. What that ultimately ends up happening is impacting the traffic flow. And so in that top example, it's somebody that went to a notable POS that was offering a free website. What they saw was things aren't really free. If your traffic declines 28, 31%, whatever it might be, doesn't always mean your transactions are going to decline by that same amount, but it's another indicator that that's likely going to happen, in addition to maybe missing out on some of that guest information capture that you have, or adding to the follower base. What's interesting is you see that direct correlation between a drop in organic pages and a drop in traffic. What you also see is, you go back, this person came back to us. It's a multi-unit, they came back to us, and you can see it now at the very end here, more recently, as they've returned, that has spiked back up. The bottom one is somebody who also went to a very low cost competitor, and you see the same trend. We could show you a lot of different examples. Some are far more extreme than what we're showing you here today. We wanted to make sure that you were listening to the message and not worried about being sold, but it is important. So whether you're using Pop Menu or not, you need to be paying attention to these things. If you're looking at going to a provider and they don't have some of the things that we've been mentioning, you want to be asking questions about how they're going to overcome that. What are they doing to offset that? Can they show you examples of people that have moved from a more expensive, let's call it expensive just because it's probably more robust if they're charging more, or at least you like to think, and they migrated away from X platform to yours. What has been the impact on their organic pages and organic traffic? And a lot of times the lower cost providers are not going to be able to answer that question quite as effectively, but I think this just validates everything we're showing you, whether you're with Popmenu or not. Focusing on all these things will have an impact, and if you don't have them, or if you have them and lose them, the impact goes against you. Free is not free.
You know, you make a comment about the cost of things and free, and I've had 3 other companies before you. 1 was less, 2 were more than what you folks charge. And I just explored, right? I tried to find an answer, right? I reached out. I wasn't looking at cost. I was looking at the time for an answer. All right. And can I get a result? The answer was none of them worked because they weren't as robust and they weren't fully encompassing as you folks are. You guys have everything. Some didn't have social media. Some didn't have texting. Some didn't have the detail in the building and the speed at which your tech team works. When I wanted to get something done, it took months for me to get something changed. I worked with JD and Kathleen. We're done in 15 minutes, not 60 days. It's a major, major difference. In my world, it's not just about the SEO. SEO has got to turn into visibility and turn into a transaction. If it don't turn into an ROI, I mean, I'm happy that they see me, but if it don't turn into a transaction, I don't make anything out of it, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a couple of things there is like, I think one of the toughest challenges from our perspective in consulting with people is kind of overcoming some things they've been missold in the past. I think that's one thing that's hindered the space and hindered innovation coming into the space. Luckily, you've seen a lot of innovation and a lot more players coming in the space, which is good for everybody. We love that. Increased competition keeps us sharp. Nobody's perfect. It's hard to do some of this stuff, but what we try and be is really transparent. Like, hey, all you can do is do your best to optimize for all these things. There's always going to be new things popping up or changes the algorithm, but if you're with the right partner, they're paying attention to those things, and we invest a lot in those kind of things. So I'm not surprised to hear it. I'm also extremely happy to hear it. So
there are other ways you can improve your search ranking. One is how active you are on social media. And so posting regularly across social channels is a signal that Google picks up on. You also want to keep guests engaged via email and text. The more engaged they are, the more active they are on your website. And we've already talked through how that's a signal to Google. Don't forget they have Chrome. So they can see what kind of actions people are taking on sites, how long they're spending, etc. And you may also want to manage your reputation and links back to your site from websites with authority like OpenTable, Resy, DoorDash, Uber Eats. Really also getting as many inbound links as you can from any publication that has a good reputation, like an Eater or something like that. Those are the kind of things that augment everything that we're talking about here. You have a great site structure, and then you get more people pointing at you saying this is a great site. That's when the magic happens. And we can go to the next one, and it's, definitely leveraging AI is important, and we've been at the forefront of this for a few years. It can be a great tool when it comes to marketing, content creation. But people's sensors are up big time on generic content. And the example that Tony and I always use is if 100 of you go out and ask ChatGPT to write a Taco Tuesday email, yeah, they're going to have a little bit of different text, but they're going to say the same things. And so we're going to run through a quick demo of our marketing tool. I don't know if it's just the screen or if you're actually going into it, but avoiding generic content, but using AI to consistently message is really super important to keeping people engaged. And while Tony pulls that up, Doug, you combine AI marketing and other tools. How has that worked out for you?
The AI is wonderful. I got on board with that, and I wasn't quite sure. I got to tell you, I was kind of skeptical, but I got to tell you what, I got the AI and I love it. It's an approval, and I'm busy with 8 restaurants. I'm pretty busy. You guys submit that to me. I go through it. I edit it sometimes. I modify. Sometimes we augment when we're trying to reinforce a message. But I find it absolutely wonderful. I've queried some of our customers to say, hey, am I overloading you, right? Because that was my big concern. And they're going, no, I kind of like it. It's kind of cool. Nothing but happy. The ease of use. Instead of me now having to go to all these different formats, I can go to one format when I want to create my own. I just go to the Popmenu and create my own and push the button, and it sends to everybody. that's in my database that you guys have created, man, it don't get no simpler.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Like the big thing I would stress to everybody, and I'll walk through this one. This is a great customer, Desi District. The biggest thing is consistency. And again, this is great just for getting the brand out there. It's great for Google, all those kind of things. What Brendan was sharing on the screen is we create an entire month's worth of activity that's set to go out. It allows the restaurant to play more of a role of, let's call it, editor-in-chief. You ensure that there's a certain amount of activity happening that we know has a direct correlation with transactions, follower capture, and all this other goodness. Basically, all this work is done for you. You can come in, let's choose March 5th here. We send it to you 10 days in advance of the month, so you have time to QA that. If you wanted to change the copy, you could use AI to refresh that. If you wanted to change out the photo, add video content, you can easily do that. If for whatever reason you did not like the post or the email or the text, you could simply reject it. The reason why we are so adamant about doing this is there is a direct correlation between your impressions, meaning your marketing activity, and your revenue. Now, this is just showing you their online ordering revenue as it pertains to the marketing messages that went out. Maybe you can see here that they typically weren't doing a lot of marketing, and this generated basically $1,000 in online orders from their marketing activities. They turn ours on basically the end of May, and what you see is their impressions went up considerably, and so did the revenue. Went to 13,000. Impressions go up, goes to 15,000. Impressions go up, goes to 16,000, 16,000, 18,000, and so on. There is no catch. If you invest in your menu experience so that you differentiate versus your competition, you're naturally going to be better. That means adding some quality visual content that's real imagery, not stock photos. Allowing guests to interact, share on your behalf, write reviews, tell you what their favorite items are, things they want to try. Those things are going to differentiate. The good news is on a tech like Popmenu, you're also optimizing for Google. So you're getting that exposure and all this other stuff is happening. If you invest in your menu, Google, and have some level of consistency in your marketing, you're better than 98% of restaurants right out of the gate. Things like the AI marketing tool allow smaller operators to compete with those who are multi-unit, have much larger budgets. So we think it really levels the playing field. If you're a larger operator, then this allows you to do more with less by being able to simply use a tool instead of having to hire 10 or 12 people. Or if you're going to hire that level of people, maybe you can invest in different areas. So that's an example of how it works. I could show you 1,000 of these examples and you're going to see a very similar trajectory. There's a direct correlation between impressions and revenue. Optimizing for Google, optimizing your menu experience allows you to capture more followers. So now they can go into your marketing engine, and that's what's also going to drive the impressions and the revenue growth. It's all tied together. Menu, Google, consistency, you're already ahead of the game. I will shut up now.
Look, the impressions lead to revenue. Every data point we see shows that. And so being very consistent with it, building the number of people you're messaging and then touching them more works. Next up is influencer marketing for restaurants. And so this is relatively new, but engaging influencers is another way to get more love from Google. We have an offering that has to do with influencer marketing specifically for restaurants. We help you plan, execute, optimize, and boost your local reach and brand presence. This goes along with higher activity in social, giving more signals to Google. And the next slide is some results from that. El Guapo saw great engagement, 1.5 million impressions in social, 45% jump in organic traffic, 400% increase in order volume over the last 6 months. And so there's a combination of AI marketing and influencer marketing going on there. And this all becomes a flywheel. Again, all of this also influences your SEO and gets you higher rankings. Next, there's also an amplifier we used to employ and we're bringing back as a product now. It is paid search, but it also has an influence on organic search. Google may tell you that it doesn't, but I've always seen that it does. And so we brought back a product. It's difficult for restaurant operators to execute. And so we're taking that on again, and we can help you create, run, and manage ads on Google, target high intent customers. This is also a great supplement to your organic search. And so if there are some things that maybe a competitor is doing a little bit better than you and has a little bit better reputation, you can supplement your organic with Google ads for specific dishes, specific cuisine types. Quick recap. This is a list of all the things we talked about today that influence your ranking on Google. There are things you can quickly implement yourself regardless of what technology platform you use. In our opinion, and of course we've been developing this platform for 8 years. We've had billions of page views in a given month. We have 25 to 30 million unique visitors coming through and visiting our clients using our platform, that has given us a tremendous amount of information to use to optimize. And most of these things are taken care of automatically by Popmenu and should be taken care of automatically by anything that you use. I will say one of the most interesting things for us is this creating dish specific pages, them getting indexed, them getting star rankings based on our pop score, things like that. Even if you do not go with Popmenu, I encourage you to take maybe your 5 best dishes, create, or have your agency, whoever's doing it, create pages for those dishes, put as much information as you can in them, get reviews, and consistently update them. And that will give you a nice lift in long tail, very specific, very productive organic traffic. I did not hear the reply to the question about how to answer reviews. We typically do not answer Google reviews because they're only allow public responses. We do reply to OpenTable, Yelp, etc. We're new to Popmenu, so just getting into how the reviews are coming in that way. Great. I love that you have a strategy, anonymous attendee. I love that you have a strategy and that you're employing it. And I think being consistent with that is very important. Within Popmenu, in your dashboard, and you can reach out to our CS team if you need help with it, your reviews through Popmenu are coming in there and you have the opportunity to approve it so it shows on your site. You can block it from appearing on your site. It is your site, so you get to decide. This is a first party review. This isn't a marketplace. But you can also reply publicly or privately on there. And so we've always been about putting all the control in your hands that we can, and that's very much the case about reviews. I think another side benefit to reviews being first party in Popmenu is we tend to see that once you have that mechanism in place, you will get less third-party reviews in Yelp and other places because people feel like they're dealing directly with the purveyor of the business. So highly encourage, for a number of reasons, responding to Popmenu reviews and showing them on your page. There's one. Doug, who do you use for a POS platform? And are you using Popmenu ordering?
I use Clover. I use the Clover register systems. Popmenu seems to work real good with it. It flows seamlessly to the kitchens. The speed for printing is within 60 seconds of the order, which is outstanding.
We have integrations with Clover, with Square, Oracle, just recently released Heartland, obviously Toast.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And pretty much all of our relationships will have not only the order injection, meaning our ordering UX, which most people prefer, injects directly into the system, but also a menu sync, which allows you to update the menu in one spot instead of having to do it in multiple places. So
great. And getting back to the questions, Denise, repeating what I said about images of 5 best dishes. What I said was creating an actual web page for each of those dishes. Again, if you're with Popmenu, this is automatically going to happen, and those are going to contribute greatly to your SEO. If you're not going with Popmenu, I would create a specific pages for the signature dish or dishes you have for which you want to be found. And yeah, having that kind of look like a Popmenu dish page is going to have a lot of advantages for you in SEO, including getting ranked for that specific dish, the way we showed shrimp and grits, in Atlanta. And so this is just a way, outside of Popmenu that you can do it, and capturing reviews for it and constantly updating the page with those reviews will give you a nice lift in your organic search. Christopher Knowles, I have an issue with the company that serves my app sunsetting the product. Any suggestions in a company that creates a service as an app? I'm the wrong guy to ask because I don't think apps make sense at all for any except the absolute largest restaurants. Go check your phone. Do you have any local restaurant apps in your pocket? I doubt you do. The web suffices. The only real benefit you get from an app is you get to do push notifications to people, which is unique. And if you have a big list, that might be enough value to do it. I don't know who does it well. But for me, I'm just I think an app is just, it's kind of a vanity thing that people try to sell. And the truth is consumers don't really want it. That's my opinion.
We do have one that we could probably connect you with, but I agree with Brendan. If depending on the size of your business, it's hard to get the return on that, unless you've got real strong brand loyalty and geographic density. You tend to see the return wane, if at all. So I do think it's a hot button where everybody tries to sell it. There's a lot of people out there that try and combine it with ordering as kind of a value add, when in reality it's just a way to drive up the rate. I think what people really care most about is a great mobile experience in the business have an indication that they actually know some things about the consumer. So if you have a good mobile experience and an interactive platform that allows you to understand people's preferences, where they're coming from, all those kind of things, I think that gives you far more powerful than most apps do. But again, maybe it works for you. We have somebody we can connect you with in that regard.
Guys, I can tell you from working the app with McDonald's and also working with our app with L&L, unless you've got a lot of money to get all the bells and whistles from a major corporation that you think you can get, you really can't afford to get an app. So it's better to go with a web-based process like we've got, because what I've got with Pop Menu far and exceeds what I could get with an app and is more user-friendly for my customers. My customers love Pop Menu versus our own L&L app right now, and I have both. And our L&L app is useless compared to my Pop Menu.
Great. Thank you for that, Doug. And thanks for all the perspective you shared today. And, we try to make these educational and not salesy. Yeah. And we definitely didn't ask Doug to be as, as effusive with his praise as he was, but we really appreciate you taking the time and for sharing your perspectives. Thanks everyone for joining and spending your valuable time with us. And we hope this was valuable for you as well. Look forward to seeing everybody in the future. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Right on, bro. See you guys.
Hey, Doug.